Dun, 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 dun. Day 36 of actually, well, let's just be honest. All right. So I've been doing this 1 day challenge, one post a day for 100 days. That's the goal. I'm still posting 100 days, but I had a birthday weekend and I had a bunch of people over Saturday, had a great day Sunday, and yesterday I was tired. So I didn't post the last 3 days. So I'm behind, but I needed a break. But it's been fun to do this, and I'm gonna continue to keep going. We're gonna keep the party going, but I needed this time. But you know what? There's so much to talk about. We about to get crazy. So let's jump in, ladies and gentlemen. This is day 36 of 100 days that I'll be posting, probably longer than that. But right now, this is day 36 of 100 days. Welcome to CNN. I'm Kirk Kennedy. I'll be your host. We got a lot to talk about. Let's go in. All right, now I typically like to, every once in a while, start these videos off with a couple scriptures that help inform the way I see things. So let me just remind you of them if you care. And if you don't, I don't care. That you don't care. All right. Matthew 16:3. Jesus said this: you know how to interpret the appearance of the sky, but you cannot interpret the signs of the time. So I feel like it's a responsibility. He was rebuking his followers for not being able to interpret the signs of the times. Now, I don't think Jesus meant have your Bible open and your newspaper open, but just pay attention to the world that you live in, and you should be able to understand what's happening. Second verse that I use to why I come up with the way things I come up with. Ephesians 5:11, take no part in the unfruitful works of darkness, but instead expose them. So I think darkness is everywhere. So I try not to be on any side politically. I'm not on the left or the right. I think there's darkness everywhere. My job is to just expose it and call it for what it is. All right. All right. All right. All right. Having said that, let's have this conversation. And in order for you to understand, so the title of this particular episode is called "Do You Know This About Mental Health?" Do you know this? And I want you to stay with me till the end. I won't keep you too long, I promise. But stay with me till the end. All right, I'm about to put on the screen. This is a real article that I read today. I'm going to show you this on the screen. You cannot make this stuff up. I kid you not. Me and Strax's next cross examine episode is going to have to be another As the World Burns. I mean, you can't make this up. But I want you to see this headline, and then I'm going to read some of this article so that you could understand why I'm saying what I'm saying here. All right. So let me just move this article over first so that you all can see this, because this joint is about to get crazy. All right. So here's the article that I want you to see the headline. Look at this right here. Listen to this right here. This is the article. All right. Look at, I hope you can see this on your screen. Dad who claimed he adopted violent adult masquerading as 6-year-old breaks down over abuse. All right, let me make sure this is not, I'm not making this up. This is not Babylon B or some other spoof of a media outlet. This is a true reality. So let's look at this again. All right. Dad claims he adopted a violent adult masquerading as 6-year-old breaks down over abuse. All right. So I'm going to read some of this article, and then we're going to talk about the reality, something about mental health that I don't think many people are really being honest about and paying attention to. All right. So now you know the article. Dad who claims he adopted violent adult masquerading as 6-year-old breaks down over abuse. Here's some of this. A family in Indiana that adopted a young girl from Ukraine, but later alleged she was an adult masquerading as a child with intent to harm their family, are speaking out about the ordeal 13 years later. We were all abused, Father Michael Barnett screams in the trailer for an upcoming documentary on Investigation Discovery. I hate this. Michael Barnett said, and his then wife, Kristen Barnett, adopted in April 2010 someone who they believed to be a 6-year-old girl named Natalia, who suffers from a rare form of dwarfism. but the family soon questioned her age after dealing with allegedly violent behavior. All right. Actually, let me put this back on the screen so people who don't know what I'm talking about can see what I'm talking about. She tried to poison and kill my wife, Michael Barnett said in the trailer for the documentary, The Curious Case of Natalia Grace. One night, I opened my eyes and Natalia is standing at the foot of the bed with a knife in her hand. In 2012, the parents petitioned the court to legally change Natalia's birth year from 2003 to 1989, which was granted and changed her age from 8 years old to 22. The family then moved to Canada with their biological children, where their oldest son was slated to start college. The parents of the alleged girl landed in hot water in 2013 when it was discovered Natalia was living alone in an apartment in Lafayette, Indiana, leading to an investigation and their arrest. In 2019, the couple, who have since divorced, were charged with neglect of a dependent. The media is painting me to be a child abuser, but there is no child here, Christine Barnett told the Daily Mail in 2019. Natalia was a woman. She had periods. She had adult teeth. She added in the interview, she never grew a single inch, which would happen even with the child with dwarfism. The doctors all confirmed she was suffering a severe psychological illness, only diagnosed in adults. Okay. We got to have an honest conversation right now. And my job isn't to offend anyone, but to expose the truth. We got to have a real conversation. And this is a culmination of a lot of things I've been thinking, not just from this article. This article obviously just added some vodka to the punch, right? So mental health has become a commonality in the last 10 years. As much as many things have been, mental health in terms of bipolar, all kinds of dysmorphias, all these things have become a part of our lexicon. We accept people, we understand mental health exists, and now, in many ways, for the good, we offer some type of protection for people who have mental health. Now, let me just say this: some of you who follow me on Cross Examine would know my son has autism, one of my sons, and he's on the spectrum, and he is affected in his mental health. So I live with mental health every day. This is not something that I take lightly. It's something that is a part of my life. You know, I don't know what the future of my son will hold. I hope the best for him, and I'm trying my best to train him to not let his identity be that he has autism, but he is definitely mentally different than my other two sons. And that's just the reality. And we accept that as from the Lord. All right. So when I talk about mental health, I'm not talking about it in a way that's distant from who I am and what's a part of my life. But having said that, we have to have an honest conversation about mental health, some aspects of it. And I want to just say this up front, that mental health, not all of it, but mental health to some degree is a scheme of the devil. Mental health is a scheme of the devil. Not all mental health, but there are aspects of it which are a scheme of the devil. Let me explain what I mean. And again, I'm not trying to offend you, but hear me out. And if you don't like it, cool. Then unfollow, do what you got to do. But let me explain what I mean by this. The Natalia story that I read was something totally different. They obviously felt compassion toward this young girl, and they adopted her and thought she was a little girl. I don't know. And maybe they really were deceived by that because she was little and thought she was 6 and she was really an adult. But that's not the story about her, is not really what I want to talk about. In our society right now today, we are forced to embrace what we would have historically called like mental health issues, right? Particularly. And in those, particularly those within a particular sexual acronym community, right? There are people within that community that are becoming more violent. We're hearing more about violence from people who identify as particular genders. They're attacking people for not agreeing with that and so forth, right? We get that. That's the reality. They're hurt, they're offended, they've gone through a lot as well. But here's the problem with the way we're looking at mental health. So we're saying that people who, you know, like there's a recent video of so this girl Natalia, she's saying she's 6 years old. Does she have a mental health issue? Now she has dwarfism issues, but is that a mental health issue to parade yourself as a 6-year-old girl when you're actually much older. You're 22 years old. That's a mental health issue, right? And wanting people to believe that. There are people who identify as things that they're not biologically. Only by your psychological profile are you this particular person, this kind of person, right? Whatever it is, identify as a man, woman, and so forth, right? And we are told, people who do not agree with that or see that as legitimate, we are told that we are hurting these people. We're told it's not a mental health issue, that it's just who people are. We need to embrace that. They're not going anywhere and so forth. And to some degree, they're not going anywhere. That's true. But here's the problem. And here's the thing about mental health that no one is telling you that I'm going to tell you. If those people do not have a mental health issue, right? If stuff like this girl Natalia can identify as a 6-year-old when she's 22, if a man can identify as a woman, even though he's biologically male, if those things are not mental health issues, then here's what's happening to you and I, who would normally think that doesn't seem right, right? Here's what's happening to you and I if that's not a mental health issue. Here's the problem, and here's where it's a scheme of the devil. I want to keep this on the screen. I'm not trying to offend anyone, but hear me out. Mental health is a scheme of the devil. Here's where I'm getting this from in Paul. Paul comments on this in 2 Corinthians 10 and 11. He was referencing the Corinthians forgiving people and not letting forgiveness be a scheme of the devil or a design of the devil. Here's what he says. Anyone whom you forgive, I also forgive. Indeed, what I have forgiven, if I have forgiven anything, has been for your sake in the presence of Christ, so that we would not be outwitted by Satan, for we are not ignorant of his designs, right? And another translation says schemes, all right? So Paul is saying that he knows that not forgiving people would be a design of Satan, right? So what does it have to do with mental health? Well, I said a few minutes ago that mental health is a scheme of the devil. Let me explain why. If Nadia or Natalia does not have mental health issues, and if people can identify as a certain gender or race or an animal or whatever they are, and it's not a mental health issue, then here's what's going to happen. Here's what's happening already. You and I, who normally think, have been trained to believe science and to believe just certain foundational realities, right? We've been trained to believe these things. So if I see a person and I think that's a woman, right? But then that person says, no, I'm not a woman, I'm a man, and you need to see me as such and treat me as such. But I think, well, you, apart from the wig and the makeup, you sound like a man, you walk like a man, you have the bone structure of a man, you have an Adam's apple. Let's just say, like, in my mind, I see that. But you're telling me, society is telling me, no, I can't think that that's a woman, or vice versa. Or no, you're not really a human being, you're actually a dragon from the planet Algernon, right? I'm not making this up. This is someone said this. I recently saw this. Okay, so if that's not a mental health issue, and I'm saying I can't do that. So if you sound like a man and you look like a man, but you're a woman, guess what's happening? Guess who has mental health problems now? I do. You do. Let me explain why. Part of the way that the Lord has designed us is by 5 senses. 6 if you can see dead people, right? So you got sight, sound, my eyes, my ears, my taste, what I can feel, stuff like that. Like there's senses, right? That we get, what I can smell, right? Those are the senses. We process the world through those 5 senses, and those 5 senses are connected, come to us through our brains. The central computer of humanity is the brain. So if I see someone who looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, but you tell me you're actually a tiger, what's happening to me is I am saying, well, I can't trust my eyes anymore. The thing that God gave me to see and to distinguish, I can no longer trust. I can't trust my ears anymore because you sound like a duck, you look like a duck, but you're telling me you're actually a tiger. So you don't have the problem. You're telling me I actually have mental health issues. And it's creating in me a lack of trust in my ability to think rationally the way God has ordained me to think. It's denying my ability to see and, for the most part, trust what I'm seeing. It's denying my ability to hear and, for the most part, trust what I'm hearing, right? So the mental health issue that I always thought these people have, I'm now being told I have the mental health issue because I'm unwilling to see what you see. If you can no longer trust your brain to interpret for you reality, then you're left to interpret reality from what everyone else says, the majority, right? The democracy. And the democracy seems to be going against biblical truth. So, guess what? You now have a mental health problem. I have a mental health problem. But the people who we would have said have mental health issues, they do not. This is a scheme of the devil because God said in James 3 that he is not the author of confusion. So if I can't tell, and don't get me wrong, there are moments where sometimes you can't tell if that's a man or woman, but there are times where it's like, nah, that's a dude. That's a dude, right? That is a dude. And if he's offended, then he's gonna be mad. He's gonna be a dude, a man with makeup on is offended. This is a dude, right? If that's what I honestly, if I see that, and you're telling me that's not that, and there's no proof apart from, well, this is how he feels, even though he has all the biology there, you're telling me I have a mental health problem. And then I'm confused. Now I don't know my left from my right. It's like the taming of the shrew, where this movie at the end where Elizabeth Taylor thinks it's daytime when it's nighttime, and it's nighttime when it's daytime, and that's what's happening. The enemy is the author of confusion, not the Lord. So if you and I can no longer trust our mental faculties, if I can't trust what I see and hear, then I can't trust the where it's coming from, my brain. And guess what? I will be told anything and I'll just believe it. It is a scheme of the devil. Now, I don't know what Natalia's dad and mom thought. They probably genuinely thought they were adopting a 6-year-old little girl from Ukraine who had a dwarf uh, um, disease that she was really 22 years old. But the question is, did 22-year-old Natalia know she was 22 and not 6? And why isn't that a crazy reality? If you are of the Christian tradition, keep in mind this: you are the underdog. I am the underdog. We are the underdog, but we are not afraid. I'm not afraid to be the underdog. Jesus changed the world with 12 dudes, turned the world upside down. I'm okay with being the underdog, but we got to be honest about what it is and expose the deeds of darkness and whatever that looks like. If I lose some followers, so be it. In eternity, that's what we care about mostly. It is crazy. The truth about mental health, what no one is saying, is it's a scheme of the devil, and the enemy is trying to make you have mental health and me have mental health because the things that we know are true, they're telling us are not true. The things that we see that are true, they're saying they're not true. The things that we hear that are true, they're telling us they're not true. And I'm telling you that's not true. But what do I know? I missed a couple of days in the challenge, but I'm back and we got a lot to talk about. We're going to get it in. But for now, pay attention. Pay attention. Because what they're taking away as issues of mental health, they're subtly putting them on you, saying you have mental health problems. And there's nothing wrong with you for seeing it how you see it. Nothing wrong with you from hearing how you see it, tasting it. You get it, you smell it, you get all of it. You can tell. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. The mental health, the confusion doesn't come from him, it comes from them. Stay focused. You are the underdog. I am the underdog, and we're not afraid. Kirk Kennedy, I'm back, and let's go in.